Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And I just saw this piece and I thought actually it's fairly accurate. It's a comment piece by a guy called Graham Grant. And I looked at it, read it, and went, yep, he's got it spot on. So we're going to have a look at this. He's basically saying that the SNP have so backward that they've turned Scotland from a democracy to a democracy, which I thought was a wonderful term. But we will just take a quick look at this. I'm not going to go into too much depth, just a quick flash over. But yeah, fairly good. Let's have a look, see why he thinks the SNP have been an absolute failure in everything they've done for Scotland. Here goes. So the SNP has turned Scotland into a democracy where ineptitude is an art form. Ineptitude is what gets you elected now. You can't become an SNP minister or a Greens minister unless you are incredibly dim. If anyone with the slightest glimmer of talent or intelligence is immediately rejected because it's seen as a threat to everyone else in the party. It is always going down to the lowest common denominator. And boy, are these people common. Anyway, no government has ever deserved to be put out of its misery more than the present shambolic SNP administration. Humza Yousaf and his blundering team are an embarrassment to Scotland, and their only tangible achievement has been to humiliate us on the world stage. Together with their predecessors under the Sturgeon regime, they are guilty of one of the most cack-handed displays of botched governance ever witnessed. You couldn't even accuse them of style over substance, as they no longer have any pretense of style, and what little substance they had evaporated long ago. As I say, there's no talent left. Political theorists might well look back on the gruelling SNP domination of devolved politics as an age of democracy, an era where ineptitude became almost an art form. And there he is, the captain of the shipping fools. The reverse Midas touch. I use that. That's my old one. I've been using that for about a year now. Has been so heavily baked into the system that it's hardly a surprise anymore when policies unravel under the merest scrutiny. The deposit return scheme, the DRS, is the latest example of an avoidable foul-up, demonstrating that the separatist cabal in Holyrood can't even organise a recycling initiative. The average community council would have made a better fist of putting together a viable version of it, while Green Minister Lorna Slater, she of a very low intelligence, and the SNP are now threatening to scrap the whole venture in a fit of pique. Lorna Slater isn't fit enough to make the tea. She is, I'm going to say, not even a sandwich short of a picnic. She is not even close to being a sandwich. The UK government had the gall to try and rescue the DRS after coming up with a compromise that would prevent a breach of the UK's internal market legislation. Its only condition was that glass shouldn't form part of the scheme, provoking howls of outrage from Mr Yousaf and Miss Slater, who cast it predictably enough as an attack on devolution. No, it was an attack on a terribly bad policy. Some truly hysterical claims have been offered up, including Mr Yousaf's assertion that the 600 million bottles won't be removed from our streets, beaches and parks if glass is excluded from the DRS. And I did a video of that this morning where it's quite clearly a lie. Given that Scotland has a population of 5.5 million, for 600 million glass bottles to be littered every year would require the average person to annually dump 109 bottles. But we know that the majority are already recycled. I've covered this. Bear in mind that a lot of glass will end up filling potholes anyway as part of the road aggregate, at least according to the glass industry, because it's much harder, if not impossible, to turn it into other glass products once it's been mechanically broken up. For its part, Circularity Scotland is set up by the SNP government to deliver the scheme. It claims that the overwhelming majority of material collected will be reused for drinks containers, which it cannot possibly be done. This is another one of those. I have a bright idea, and because I've thought of it, it must be true. I could go and look at the evidence. I could go and speak to experts, but no, I won't do that. I'll rely on my own weird, backward, stupidity-driven thoughts. Oh, honestly, they're morons, aren't they? Either way, it was an extraordinary lapse or a deliberate omission for strategic reasons on the part of ministers not to make an application for an exemption from a UK-wide internal market at the earliest stage. But then it would have robbed the SNP of the opportunity for axe grinding and recrimination. both of which are needed to power the badly flagging case for independence, now languishing on life support. They really are a one-trick pony, aren't they? And it isn't a very good pony. It's a very old pony. It's a bit wheezy. It's been down the pit. You know, it's blind. It's coming to the end of its days. It can't carry anything. It wants to just sit in a field, chew grass, and enjoy the sun for the last few years, easy years of its life. That's really all. That sums up the independence campaign. It sums up the SNP, doesn't it? Meanwhile, the SNP is talking up the prospect of another tax grab to balance the book. A projected, which books? The real books or the ones they've hidden away? You know what I mean? This is a projected £1.9 billion overspend within 3 years. But who can trust the economical acumen of an outfit which was left scrambling around to find new auditors for its own party's accounts in the midst of an ongoing police probe? An outfit that came dangerously close to losing more than £1 million of vital taxpayers' short money to bankroll its parliamentary operations before securing the services of another auditing firm to give the accounts a clean bill of health at the last minute. It hasn't yet. It's got them. It says it's got them, but it hasn't put them to the authorities yet. They've got until tomorrow. Now the same bunch want more of your cash to sustain the behemoth of the welfare state. More handouts. It is the only major investment the SNP is prepared to make. Yes, because it needs to keep the unemployed and the unemployable on the payroll effectively, because they are the ones who vote for them. Think of what Scotland used to be famous for, including the state school system, destroyed. Still blighted by a postcode lottery on attainment, which Nicola Sturgeon pledged and failed to end. And with a record so poor that the SNP government withdrew from global education studies because it was so ashamed of how far down the list it fell. The failure was so ingrained and so shameful that it could only be covered up, however inexpertly by whilst pupils stuck in crumbling schools and increasingly lawless classrooms continued to pay the price of a lamentable curriculum and a host of other ham-fisted reforms. We used to be famous for such great economic thinkers and philosophers, from Adam Smith to David Hume, whose legacy has been so senselessly traduced by the woke mob at the University of Edinburgh, forcing the David Hume Tower to be renamed. And now the Marxist Greens share the power with the SNP, and the Greens are opposed to growth, and the SNP is clueless about how to achieve it, preferring to talk in vague terms about something called a well-being economy. And that is what happens when you let idiots control your country and you don't point out every stupid thing they do, which is what I try my damn best to do, which is why I thank every single one of you for watching my videos. It is truly humbling for me. Thank you. And on that, I shall come up. The trouble with the SNP and the Greens is that they're very stupid. They're incredibly stupid. There's no education. There's no intelligence. There's also no experience. None of them have been out into the real world. There's no foresight. There's no awareness. They cannot even perceive what they don't know. They don't know that they need to go and find expert opinion because they, in their infinite stupidness, think they are the experts. And so the whole country collapses about them and they wonder why, and they blame Westminster because they can't possibly be the ones that got it wrong. So very wrong. So completely wrong. And yet it was them. We all know it was them. They were in a state of denial and they're in a state of abject stupidity. You know, they just don't get what they've done. They cannot see their own harm. This is the trouble. And it's up to us, the people, to show them what the harm is. And we've got to push this message at all times that the SNP are like a cancer and they are utterly destroying the body that is Scotland. And we've got to keep doing it. And, you know, the next elections come is the chance to show them exactly what we think of them. Anyway, I shall finish there. This was just a piece to show. Anyway, I shall see you next time. So thank you very much for watching. Hit that button press the like. And until next time, stay safe, stay well. Please, God, let's vote these morons out of office. And goodbye.